Success at anything of great significance is not easy. It takes a certain group of elements. You almost well, not even almost. You slip into this part of success which makes you forget other parts of it. You just move on. In Genesis chapter 42, you're going to see the effects of success. And as I tell a lot of people that I talk to, whether they I'm a mentor to them or a friend or whatever, they've heard this from me all the time. When you get there, success doesn't really. When you get to the place that you've been looking for, it's almost like you forget. It doesn't look the way you thought it would look. When I wrote my book, my first book, and I got the print of it, I said, this is what it means to write a book. And the second book, and it because there are other elements as well that are important to success to get the broader success. That's why you have to be careful what you pray for. You pray for. I think it's an old saying. You pray for rain, you get mud. I think it's. You get the mud that goes along with it. There are so many parts of it that you don't realize when you're first praying for it. But when you have had a certain amount of successes, you start to see all of the different elements of being successful. And again, this is for my kids, my sons and daughters, my grandkids, those around the world who consider me a teacher. But this is my personal Bible study to show yourself approved. But I want you to see that being successful is both, and this is going to sound funny, both not as easy as you think it is and it's not as hard as you think it is. Because there are certain elements to it. And as we're reading about Joseph, he touches on what I believe is every single element of success. I think that's one of the main reasons he's one of the main stories in this group of 66 books. And keep in mind, this book was not written for commoners. This book was assembled by a king for leaders. This is a book of leadership. And I think it's important that you understand the right perspective of things as well. This book was not written for people as we use it today, in truth. And I think that's another reason why most people read the book and just think, oh, it's a book, or it's nice, or no, this is a book of life and how to lead. It's a book on economics. It's a book on how to govern. They say there's no manual for raising kids. This is it. This is the manual for raising kids. This is if you want to build something, this is a book on how to best build something. This book to me is off the chain. And it does not disclose 100% of everything through life, but it certainly gives you the basics on 100% through everything in life. I am a believer in the words of God and the system of operating that is in this book. I have no doubt. So when I read about Joseph being thrown in a pit, I can relate. And maybe I've never been thrown in a pit, but I've certainly been thrown away by many people. Now, don't feel sorry for me, because I don't feel sorry for me, and I'm not mad at anybody about it. This is just life. I'm not the only one. That's why I think this is so relatable. Most of us have been through that particular part of the fire. That's what makes this so relatable. Anyone achieving any great success will have people walk away from them. It's not just me, it's just common. And what I'm saying to you is, it's so common, don't take it so personally where you think it's just you. It's not just you. This is how it works to become successful. You are not alone. You will feel isolated. It happens to anyone doing anything of any great substance. You will be falsely accused. I've been falsely accused. You probably have been falsely accused. It happens to anyone doing anything of any great substance. This is the pattern. You will have to do well while you're in bondage and show leadership, as Joseph did, to impress those who are in bondage themselves and are part of the leadership. Like Joseph did with the baker and the butler. One evil one and one wrongly accused one. You will have to have favor with someone, and everything that you've been through will be tested by someone needing all the skills you developed by going through what you went through. Which will make you an expert at something. I don't know what that something is for you. But if you keep your attitude right, as Joseph did, throughout all these fires that he went through unscathed, you will come out on the other end with favor and a skill set that someone needs. That's the summary of 40 and 41, Genesis 40 and 41. You will have such great favor that they will want to incorporate you in their world system. In Genesis 41, verse 44, and Pharaoh said unto Joseph, I, Pharaoh, and without thee shall no man lift up his hand or foot in all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh called Joseph's name Zaphnath Paneah, and gave him to wife Esnath, the daughter of Potipharah, priest of On, Egyptian priest. Joseph, the Israelite, if you will, married an Egyptian. For all of you against Egyptians and Ma'at, if you've been walking with me throughout this, I've been telling you or sharing with you the importance of not speaking down about any culture. Joseph married an Egyptian, had 2 children. He not only married an Egyptian, he married the priest, the priest's daughter. For all you in certain religions who believe priests shouldn't have children, it's one of the most unnatural things that a priest can't get married. It doesn't make sense. But I'm off on a different track there. I can't go too far down that track either. But my point is, he didn't marry an Ishmaelite, but he did marry an Egyptian who the Ishmaelites wanted to be like. Now, what's the significance of that? Because not only was he a child of the tribe of Israel, he was also the husband of a daughter of Egyptians. He understood both systems, in other words. He had 2 children by the priest of On's daughter. He was incorporated in. Now, at this time, Joseph was about 30 years old, and then he got to work. He got to work around 30 years old, something like Jesus. Started his ministry around 30. I want to explain why I'm going slow. Because I'm going slow because I want you to personalize this life that Joseph was living to yourself. I want you to see that he was but he was an ordinary guy from a family that went through extraordinary measures to become governor of Egypt. In the midst of a famine, Joseph was the solution. If you understand who you are, you bring solutions. You can't bring solutions if you're mad at the world, mad at the people that were in your past. You can't bring solutions. You can't. You're too busy in your feelings, talking about who's beating you down. No one's beating you down. You have to take your experiences and turn them into experiences and a testimony to be able to sow into the lives of the people who are going to need your experience. This is what Joseph did, and he was well rewarded for it. And he got to work at the end of what we call Genesis 41, and he started going throughout the land and collecting things. And he had a son, 2 sons in verse 51, Genesis 41:51. And Joseph called the name of the firstborn Manasseh. That's not how you pronounce his name if you're speaking Hebrew. Even though, anyway. For God hath made me forget all my toil and all my father's house, and named the second child Ephraim. For God hath caused me to be fruitful in the land of my affliction, and the 7 years of plenteous that was in the land of Egypt were ended, and the 7 years of dearth began. All right. So, in chapter 42 comes the story of Joseph interacting with his brothers again. Genesis 42, verse 1. Now, when Joseph saw that there was corn in Jacob, Joseph's father, when he saw that there was corn in Egypt, Jacob said unto his sons, why do you look one upon another? In other words, you're lazy. You're just sitting around looking at each other. And there's a famine in the land. And he said, behold, I've heard that there's corn in Egypt. Get you down thither and buy some. But don't take Benjamin, lest there be some harm that comes to him. Because Jacob was gun shy at this point. When I say gun shy, it means he was scared that these brothers, his sons, were going to do harm to Benjamin. Jacob wasn't stupid. So he said, well, leave Benjamin here. So they went down to Egypt. The sons of Israel, verse 5, came to buy among those that came. The famine was in the land of Canaan. Verse 6, and Joseph, the governor over the land, that sold to all the people of the land, and Joseph's brethren came and bowed down themselves. And I love this. In verse 7 it says, and Joseph saw his brethren, and he knew them, but made himself strange. At this point, he looked different, and he was speaking a different language, because he had incorporated himself in the world. He wasn't of the world, but he was in the world. And spoke roughly to him, and said that, now I don't want to pass by the spoke roughly to him, because most people do when they're talking about it. I don't know if he spoke roughly to him just to seem like he was an Egyptian, or he spoke roughly to him because he had an attitude about seeing him again. I don't really know. Both could be true, though. I don't really know. But he spoke roughly to him, and they didn't recognize who he was. In verse 7, he says, he saw his brother and made himself strange. In other words, they didn't understand who he was. Verse 9, and Joseph remembered, this is the part I like, and Joseph remembered the dreams which he dreamt of them, and said unto them, spies, to see the nakedness of the land ye are come. He got rough with him, because he had a plan. In verse 10 he says, and they said unto him, nay, my lord, but to buy food are thy servants come. We all one man's son. We true, thy servants are no spies. Verse 12, and he said unto them, nay, but to see the nakedness of the land ye are come. In verse 13, and they said, thy servants, 12 brethren, the sons of one man. 12 brethren, sons of one man, in the land of Canaan. And behold, the youngest this day with our father, and one not. And Joseph said unto them, that I spake unto you, saying, ye spies, hereby ye shall be proved. By the life of Pharaoh ye shall not go forth hence, except your youngest brother come hither. He had a plan. He had a plan. Now, they didn't understand the plan. They just thought that they were in deep trouble. Success is not an accident. You can live out any vision you want if you just spend your time preparing for it, regardless of what is going on in your life. They're all distractions in one way, And they're all tools to teach you in another. They're all to prepare you for the great vision God placed on your heart. The hard part is getting out of your way, or God's way, and not allowing yourself to sabotage the vision that God placed on your heart so many years ago. So many years ago, some of you have lost it, but it's still there. Just repent. Some of you think it's too late. It is not too late. Anyway, this is beautiful. Thank you for taking this journey with us as we explore the kingdom of God. If these videos or podcasts are good for you, please like and share them with others. It would mean everything to me. And thank you for helping me usher in the kingdom of heaven.